When you're dedicated to a goal or a purpose or an objective, you will do whatever means are necessary, legally necessary, hopefully, to attain that goal. You will be committed. It's not like trying or just being interested in doing something. It's actually committing and having the discipline to go through and see that through. In my last video, I spoke about time being an asset as well as money. Time and money are actually amplifiers. You've probably heard this before, in that if you get it, it will only amplify what your true nature is. So if, take for instance, you're disorganized and you just haven't really found a purpose in life, people think, well, if I had all this money or all this time, I could make a success of myself. But if you haven't got it together, when you don't have these things, time nor money, once you do get the time and money or money, you will find that this will amplify your problems more than solve your problems. So the whole thing is you have to get it together before you come into this extra time or extra money, or before you can realize having extra time and extra money. Having said that, this particular video, I want to discuss with you time. In essence, I'm going to hopefully make you your own time lord or time lady, as the case may be. The first thing to do is you actually have to focus on what you want to achieve, and what you want to achieve, and prioritize them. So let's talk to that. Let's speak to those points. First of all, you have to make a to-do list. Now, I know you say, oh yeah, I've done a to-do list before, but this to-do list is an action-oriented to-do list, in that we have the item or description of what you have to do, but then we also have an estimated completion date. So when would you estimate that it would take you from today to getting it to complete it? So if it takes you 2 weeks, it would probably be 2 weeks from today. If it's 3 weeks, you'd estimate 3 weeks. And then you actually have actual completion. Now, just because you don't meet your estimated completion date doesn't mean that you stop and give up. It means you just keep on going through it and working through it. And then once you do finish it, you actually put the actual completion date in here. This sort of gives you an idea of what your capabilities are. Whenever you do a project, whenever you do anything, generally don't look at it just as getting a task done. Look at it as a learning experience. The journey is just as important as is the destination. Remember that in life. The journey is just as important as the destination, actually even more important, because on the journey, you're going to come up with good experiences and bad experiences. And I always say, from bad experience comes good judgment. So just bear that in mind. In this other column here, I don't know if you can actually see it on the video here, I also have a very narrow column where you can put a tick mark as well, indicating that this has been finished. When you do this to-do list, you're going to write out the to-do list of the things that you want to do, or hopefully maybe one thing that you want to do, and break it down into little steps. And with those steps, what you're going to do is probably use a red or a yellow highlighter to highlight the priorities. So you're going to have high, medium, and low priorities. High priorities, of course, are things that you have to do immediately, or that are dependent upon getting this thing done. So usually you'll want to highlight that in a bright color, or red, if there's such a thing as a red highlighter. I've seen them years ago. I don't know if they still exist. And then just like a stoplight, so red is a priority. And then your medium priorities, the next things to come into play would be the yellow or orange, and then the next things would be green, which are basically the final steps. So that's basically how you would mark up this priority list. People say, oh yeah, I've used priority lists before, but try this. Once again, you want to have the item, an estimated completion date, an actual completion date, and prioritize it. Because if you don't prioritize your work, you're not going to be able to get things done, or unexpected stuff is going to come up. And by the way, if unexpected stuff does, or unexpected steps do come up when you're sort of working towards that, be flexible enough that you can write them in and you can modify your plan. Because just as in any journey or any vacation that you'll take or whatever, you might want to stop and have a meal along the road, or you might want to see the sights. In this case, you might realize there's something that you need to put in that you didn't put in, or that you didn't see immediately when you started this journey. So that's not a bad thing. That's okay. That's still progress. As I said, remember, you're learning from the journey, not necessarily from getting to the destination. But the destination is kind of nice as well. So prioritizing your work is very important. Making a list and knowing exactly what you have to do. The next thing is on your day-to-day routines. And by the way, by doing this, you're saving a lot of time. People tend to say that, oh, you can multitask. You can't multitask. It's a lie. Because if you multitask, well, first of all, let's look at the human brain. Yeah, we can think about all sorts of things, but really, for picoseconds, for fractions of a second, we can only focus on one thing at a time. And in what it looks like multitasking is actually someone who can flip between those seconds back and forth, or flip between those tasks really quickly. But in essence, they're really only doing one task at a time. So don't get into the idea that you can do 1,000,001 things all at once, because you certainly won't do them very well if you do them at all. So prioritize your work, focus on one thing, make the to-do list. The next thing is, in the process of doing that, and even just your day-to-day affairs, strive to handle paper or do a routine task only once. A good example is, take for instance, if you're in an office and people start giving you these little notes to go and grab things from the basement or from the storage room. Unless they're immediate priorities, right? It's much smarter to have a stack of these, or have it like 5 or 4 or a few of these requests, and then go to the stock room once or go to the basement once, right? Makes sense, right? It's maximizing your time. There's sort of a phrase that is sort of like, it's a joke in one way, but it's very serious. Maximum efficiency with minimal effort. Now, a lot of people say, oh yeah, that's grounds to be lazy, or a lot of lazy people will say that. And yes, they will. But when you really think about it, it makes sense. If you maximize your efficiency, you're not working up a sweat running here and there and everywhere, and you're actually getting things done. And really, you're looking quite professional as you're doing it. So the whole thing is when we say handle paper only once, I'm going back to the day and age when we used to work with a lot of paper. So, typically in the old days, you would go on your computer once and do your emails once in the morning, and you do them once in the afternoon. But of course, it's a different day and time now, so you have to handle your paper more than once. But the same thing is when it comes to paying your bills. A lot of people take, for instance, they sit and they rip open their bills the minute they get them. They sit and they deal with them and file them away. Well, take, for instance, you can organize your bills so that you have a bill-paying day, or you sort of stack the bills together. And I don't mean to avoid them because you can't pay them, but you stack your paperwork, or stack the correspondence that you have to answer. I'm talking snail mail stuff here, and do it all at once. It makes sense in doing it a little bit here, a little bit there. So once again, strive to do routine tasks only once during the day, or twice at best, but space it out. Now, you have a lot of idle time on your hands, whether you believe it or not, even though you might say, oh, I don't have time. The idle time comes in maybe when you're waiting in line somewhere, or you're driving, or you're on a bus or a train, those kinds of things. You have idle time. So the best time, what you should be doing with that idle time is reading a book, an ebook, a newspaper. If you're driving, of course, you're not going to be able to read unless you have a chauffeur. Listen to the news on the radio, or listen to an audiobook, because this is going to help you keep up with things, and it allows you to make better decisions in your life and know what's going on in the world. Believe it or not, there are a lot of people walking around out there who, I know there's all this term about fake news and all that other stuff, but you know what? Sometimes you even have to know what the fake news is, what people are talking about, and what people are calling fake news. Don't be an ostrich. You have to move in this world. If you're going to make money, if you're going to get a job, if you work in a job, it pays to be aware and informed of what your environment is. Okay, don't be an island, because I mean, it just is not beneficial to you. A good example is, as well, is like, maybe you've got a business degree or something, right? Have you ever, if you meet someone with a business degree, or rather a degree, or a diploma, and most people have degrees or diplomas or something to that effect, and you say, okay, so what field is your diploma or your degree in? And they'll tell you. Just say to them, so what was the last book that you read on that subject, or paper, or magazine? What was the last? So if they say, oh, I've got an MBA in business, So ask them, say, so when was the last time or what was the last book you read in business? And a lot of people, they sort of look at their shoes and they say, oh, geez, well, it's way back in school, but I'm finished now. Well, when did you graduate? 6 years ago. If you're going to make any money and move in this world, you have to keep abreast of what's going on in your profession, in the areas that you're interested in, and in making money or the areas that you move in. Otherwise, you cannot have an intelligent discussion with people. You cannot progress in your craft, in your profession. So it's very important that you use the idle time to, as I said, to listen to an ebook, listen to an audiobook, read an ebook rather, read a newspaper, keep abreast of what's going on. This is critical. And, you know, even if you get snippets of it, it's all to your benefit. This is maximizing your time because you're going to see opportunities that you didn't see before. Trust me. And you'll be able to make connections that you weren't able to make before because you're going to start thinking, and I hate to use this phrase, out of the box. Now, the other thing is people say, I don't have time. Well, if I could give you an extra 5 hours to do whatever you wanted to do, right? But I mean, don't waste these 5 hours. If I give you an extra 5 hours to do whatever you want to do a week, would you do it? Would you use it wisely? Well, I'm going to tell you how you do that. You get up an hour early. Don't hit the snooze button. Don't roll over. Be disciplined. If you're laser focused, if it means that much to you, you're going to be dedicated. You're going to be committed. Get up an hour early. And when you get up that hour early, you turn off your phone. You turn off your Wi-Fi on your computer. Don't check the emails. In my day, like when I was younger, I mean, we had typewriters, right? And the great thing with a typewriter, if I sat down to write a book or an article or a letter, I would sit down and write the book or article or letter. Why? Because I wasn't at a keyboard like a computer saying, oh, geez, I'm on the computer. Let me check my Facebook. Or I get notifications on other social media. Or I get a little email icon popping up distracting me when I'm trying to get this thing out. That was the great thing with the typewriter. It was a single purpose thing. It was laser focus. Maybe you got to take that old school example and put it into what you do every day. But if you get up an hour early and you're going to do some work on a computer, if you're a writer or whatever you do, graphic designer on a computer, turn off the Wi-Fi, turn off or put it on bedside or whatever, or mute your phone, your smartphone, and for an hour, you are out of service. You are just being creative. You are doing what you have to do. This is your hour. And at the end of 5 days, a work week, 5 days, right? 5 business days, you will have actually had 5 hours of actual extra time, so to speak, to do what you've had to do your project. Now come back and tell me that you don't have time to pursue your dream or write that book or create whatever it is you're trying to create. You have 5 extra hours. And if you're really fanatical, you could work it into an extra hour on the weekend. So in any case, this is how you get 5 extra hours. And a lot of people, a lot of wealthy people that I know, a lot of people I know from the various clubs I belong to, and even speaking engagements, this is what they do. This is what successful people do. You get up early, and people say, well, you stay up late. Well, not that late. I still like to get to bed at a decent hour. But nonetheless, that's what you do. So this is how you get an extra 5 hours a week. And 5 hours a week, you know what 5 hours a week is? That's 210 hours. 210? 210 hours extra a year. 210. Can you imagine what you can do with 210 hours extra a year? What could you show for it? What could you perfect? Maybe you want to use it to study, take an online course. Maybe you want it to write that novel or that book that you've always wanted. It all depends. Whatever you want to do, that you've got now 5 extra hours. And if you commit to it and don't hit the snooze button and you start, don't be discouraged the first couple weeks that you sort of slag off a little bit. But by all means, give it a go, make it a habit, and you will find that you'll be very productive and you will reach a goal. Another thing as well is not only do you get up an hour early, but go to bed a half hour later. And people say, oh, you're cutting into my valuable sleep time. Well, you got to think about this. Why are you going to bed a half hour early? Because what you're going to do is an extra half hour, or rather half hour later. Don't go to bed half hour early. Go to bed a half hour later, rather. I'm sorry, but I get wound up in this here. If you go to bed a half hour later, this is exactly what you're going to do. You're going to plan your next day. You sort of lay out in your mind what you're going to do with that extra hour when you get up, but as well as what you're going to do at work, what you're going to do with everything else for that day. Plan that day, right? Lay out your clothes, your jewelry, your reports, your briefcase, whatever it is you do or whatever it is you need for that morning. Be prepared. So you're going to plan your next day. But also what you're going to do is you're going to reflect on what you did that day. You're going to reflect and say, was this a good day? What did I accomplish personally? Right? And if you're sort of hard pressed to say, well, how you made a difference or what you learned or what you accomplished or what you did that day, then it's time to sort of go back and look at your day. And it doesn't matter whether you work for yourself, whether you're not working, whether you go to school, whether you are working for somebody else. You really have to have something that you've accomplished each day. You have to make a point, whether that accomplishment is self-improvement, in that you've read a book or you've learned something new, or whether that's actually helping a customer or a client, or whether that's simply learning something new or making a friend or exchanging ideas with someone else. But every day, make it your goal to go out and have something that you can say, hey, it's an accomplishment. It doesn't have to be a big thing, but just something small. So that's basically how you can manage your time, or at least time tips from my corner anyway. Hopefully I've given you some ideas, some food for thought. That's the whole idea of these little videos that I do. And, please feel free to visit my website, www.drroberting.com, and feel free to send me an email if there's a video you'd like to see me discuss something on, or rather a topic. And as well, please don't forget to like down there this video and share it with your friends. So that's basically it. Once again, to your success, and thanks again for watching. All the best.